So welcome back. If you weren't here at the beginning, I am RPG Hour, they them pronouns, and right now I am interviewing Rainy, aka at Rained Keys.
Hello. Hi. I am Rainy, at Rained Keys on Twitter and Rainy Keys here on Twitch. I stream art on the occasion and some games. And the other times you can find me somewhere. I'm a gremlin. What can we say?
And if we look tired, it's because we both need a very, very long nap and or just a full length set of sleeping. This is something we realized in the in-between. Um,
Spring break is upon me soon and I shall hibernate.
Spring break, what's that? I haven't had one of those in a while. Um, So you are a part of two shows in the greater RPG Hour Studios verse.
Yes.
Um, you are a part of Routes Unknown. We're going to talk about that first. How did
Mm-hmm.
you get into that? Other than wanting to be a part of some hijinks.
Uh, well, that's generally it. I usually join games for the hijinks that I can cause and for the entire makeup of the group just to see if I fit well with them because I have this really awful problem of just getting stuck in certain group ruts and not knowing how to branch out and be with new people, fresh faces, humans. Um, but also just the whole entire thought of supernatural and road tripping and solving supernatural crimes. It's one of those things that I really like. I am also a giant child when it comes to horror. I am wimpy whiny baby. I am the first person that will always get axed in every horror movie ever to be made. But sometimes I like to sit there and try and tough out some games to see how well I do. Because in the end, for me, it's just a stage show. Because I'm a theater and graphic design double major in college.
The end goal was for it to not be so much scary as it is more of supernatural based. And as I said in my interview with Crow, um, there is a focus on it being inspired by shows like Supernatural, Freaky Links,
Mm-hmm.
um, Tw- Twin Peaks. Oh my goodness, that just left my brain for a second. And Haven. That's where I
Yeah.
came from with trying to build a background for the show. What is the background for Agnes? Where did she come from?
Well, see, that's an interesting thing. Agnes came from a weird place in my brain versus where Alyssa came from when we talk about beacons. Agnes was just a thought at first. I didn't even know what she would do. All I knew is I wanted to play the professional playbook. I saw that playbook, I fell in love with it, and I was like, this is mine. This is my little shiny thing. And honestly, the real breath of Agnes herself has come with the whole like, well, if she's a professional, then what does she do? And then I was like, well, I really like the whole like you're in this for life, like family hunting organizations or families of hunters that belong to a very specific organization. And that's kind of how I thought I could bend the playbook of the professional playbook to suit my needs a little bit better was with that. And that's essentially how Agnes came about. The whole past lives weird, I didn't really get a whole good look at until like we were doing some pre-show stuff and I saw that and it really clicked and it hit the thematics that I have running for Agnes, which is her bow, the way she knows arrows, her coin. All of those were passed down to her by her family, traditions upon traditions upon traditions.
So basically, just it's the family business, heroes and heroes
Mm-hmm.
and heroes, and what would you say is something that you as a player, or you as the character Agnes, were or I guess let me reword this right quick. The intro episode, spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't already watched or listened to it, um, the haunted house scene. How
Mm-hmm.
were you as a player prepared or not prepared for that, and how were you as Agnes prepared or not prepared for that?
Well, I was definitely not prepared for the shenanigans of Kelsey getting possessed. I knew we were going to come up on a potential possession block just because of the pre-game stuff that you ran us through, but having that just like sidelined into an NPC that all of us just spoke into existence was equal parts hilarious, equal parts scary, and a tiny little bit of course the cheerleader would, just because of, as you said before, like that has been a trope in like the Supernatural show or in Eureka or in Haven and all that. Like that is a typical trope of those shows. But as for Agnes, she was definitely prepared for somebody somewhere to get possessed in that gosh darned house. But she wasn't really prepared for seeing something from it, essentially, as she said it before to Chris at the end of the episode. Spoilers. I'm saying spoilers right now, but she wasn't expecting to, in her own words, come upon an old ghost.
What is something that you have kind of discovered about Agnes as you've been playing her, that you weren't sure of, weren't prepared for, or something that just kind of happened while playing with her that may have even surprised you?
Um, Agnes's fierce loyalty to her job. And her job is currently right now trying to protect and guide Polaris as they try to work out whatever their divine nature is. Another thing that really I kind of knew, but I just wanted to make sure I got right while playing with Agnes is the fact that she, out of all of the advice she'll get from her agency that she's a part of, she always listens to her past lives more. It doesn't matter if like the advice is coming from her father or the head of the agency or even her uncle. If it's not like that, that is stuff that is like really important to her. It is, but it's just the fact that her past lives, when they speak to her and give her advice or tell her to go a certain way about things, she feels like she has to follow that more. Like it's just a more intrinsic calling in her nature to follow that advice because she lived it in said past life. The knowledge and the experiences that she calls upon her past lives to give her in this current, like it's more a poetic way of saying the I don't remember what the exact word is for the opposite of ancestor, but the
Descendant?
progeny, descendant, yes, the descendant learns from the mistakes of the ancestor.
So are they directly your ancestors in a blood relation, or are you playing the past lives more as um, that your soul has traveled through different uh, bloodlines and things like that?
I'm kind of casting it with that wider net of the soul has traveled through different bloodlines, different lived lives, and of course some of them will probably tie into her own actual bloodline as it leads up to it. But I just like the idea of that entire fact. Like, she's not calling on just the lived experiences of what her past lives might have been within her familial bloodlines, but potential ones that haven't touched her family in generations off, or haven't, you know, been even within a stone's throw of them, but still somehow got pulled in.
So, what is something that you are hoping to see with Agnes? Either her as a character, something developed for her, or a specific type of situation, like a specific building that's kind of been hinted at in town, or is there a building that you want to see happen in town?
I mean, I would love to see an archery range in town, just because Agnes is an archer. She takes her bow with her lightly, because it's like actually part of her agency's like creed that I'll put it this way, spoilers for the first episode once again, but Agnes didn't carry her weapon with her into that haunted house. She carried like salt and other protective measures, but she didn't carry her bow. She didn't carry her specifically crafted arrows for situations like this, because her agency, if I can just like sidestep into this a little bit, her agency focuses more on trying to protect and help supernatural creatures and whatever they need, versus like root them out and exterminate. And with that, they hold to a creed of keep your weapons hidden, don't let the public eye see.
Okay.
So the archery range would be where Agnes feels like that wouldn't be able to like the archery range is a very perfect place to see an archery bow and homemade arrows. So like for her, that's a place where she can quietly be able to practice and not be under her uncle Jeremy's eyes, or Aunt Martha, you know.
So, what is something about Agnes that you are kind of looking forward to? What is something that you are really wanting to get to do with her?
I'm kind of looking forward to her like actually like getting to feel a little bit better with the group. I think Polaris is going to be like kind of her tether into like being a little bit more open, being a little bit more, comfortable in a sense. Because clearly Polaris loves the group, and the group loves Polaris. um, she wants to make sure that, she's near them as much as possible and can protect them, but with that, the caretaker of the carry has always been like one of those tropes that I enjoy and I love to see, especially with adventuring groups, because then that gets people like able to see sides of Agnes that she wouldn't directly let others see outside of all of that. And I know for one thing that I'm hopefully excited about is actually heading to Agnes's hometown. I do know that we are planning, like as you said before with us, that season 2 will probably see us outside of Hexwood. So I know that's going to be long ways down the road, but I would love to see Agnes come back to her hometown, especially with even a modicum of change and growth.
If she lives till season 2. No, I'm just kidding. I don't. I will say this.
I mean, okay, honestly.
Go ahead.
I mean, honestly, with the way Agnes just decided to, in our most recent episode, spoilers for those who haven't caught up on that, the way she decided to just rip a capacitor out of a magic item and then get yeeted across the wall because it was, a way to disarm that thing and turn it off, as stated by one of her past lives. I don't know if she will live to season 2 if one of those advice bits, like, actively harms her in such a way.
Well, you didn't take
Also,
damage.
we don't know what the Fae. No, I didn't take damage, but who's to say you will be kind enough to let that happen again without damage?
If it is something that I directly feed you as something from a past life, I'm not going to willingly be like, this is going to kill you, but you have to do it because your past life says it's the best. No. Um, I will allow y'all to pretty much get away with anything that y'all want to do. But if I'm like, hey, if you do this, it's bad, and you still say, like, yes, like sitting in a chair with a magic item and hooking up to it, any consequences that happen from that dangerous situation could lead to your death. That was freaky. All of a sudden, the images just like flashed. I was scared for.
Oh, that was me. Sorry.
Oh,
That was my internet, probably.
all right. Gave me a little bit of a heart attack. I'm probably right about that age, but um, so basically, I will lead you to water sources, and I will warn you of the poisoned water. But if you drink of the poisoned water, um,
I mean, that's all you can do as a showrunner, as a game runner, is like at the end of the day. Because I GM'd myself. I have GM'd many a session of D&D and many a campaigns. They never actually ended, but I've tussled my own entire system with that whole like, here I'm giving you this thing. That there's this thing, but it's a cost, and they're like, screw the cost, and I'm like, all right, cool. And then, usually I get a lot of how dare yous at the end of session, and it makes my little gremlin heart so proud. But that might also just be the teensiest bit of me. Who knows?
so let's move on over to beacons. Why don't you tell us about your beacons character right quick?
Okay, so I must state that Google Captions always screws up her name, so I will spell it out. It is Elissa. Alyssa Vesper.
I wonder, Elissa. Let's see how.
Elissa, what? Ew, that's not how I pronounce it.
I always get curious about how captioners will read certain things, and sometimes I'm able to like figure out how to like repronounce something to get captioned to get it correctly. So
But
I
yes.
had to look over here though because on the screen that I'm looking at, like where the camera is, the text is so small that like I can't actually read it, and no, Mrs. I am not old, and no, I don't need glasses. It is just a tiny box. I will have you know. Um, so I'm not gonna listen to that.
I mean, my glasses are giving me a headache. Hold on, let me just take them off real quick.
So
I can't see worth spitting distance, but it's fine.
what would you say is the most driving point for Alyssa in the Beacons campaign?
Okay, so I will have to state that I am very tight-lipped about Alyssa's backstory in this, just because it is very delicious in a lot of dramatic things that Crow and I have decided upon. So I'm going to say this in the best ways possible. Currently, Alyssa's driving force is her dedication to the Gleam Wardens. It is her dedication and just a way to honor the memory of many a loved one that was lost. There have been things said about Alyssa's backstory actually in the most recent episode of Beacons, but that was mostly purely conjecture from a Gleam Warden NPC that was introduced by Crow that Sin actually interacted with. But that is all I will say right now for Alyssa's driving force. I will state, though, just cycling back to what was the inspiration, because I did mention it earlier when I was talking about Agnes. Alyssa's inspiration actually came about from one song. A singular song created this entire character, her backstory, her life and everything up into her becoming a Gleam Warden. And while we don't while it's not particularly word for word, beat for beat, but the song that inspired Alyssa's entire character was Step It Out Mary by the High Kings, which is a very interesting song, and I do recommend everybody take a listen to it. It is going to be on Alyssa's playlist whenever I get around to creating the full thing, but that song is like her backbone as a character.
So, what is something that is not spoilers that you can give in regards to something that you want to see happen with Alyssa?
So much stuff that I want to see happen is currently tied behind the spoiler wall, but I mean, I do love seeing her interact with the Gleam Wardens, especially as I said before with our most recent up of Beacons, episode 2 with Jessica. That was the NPC that was named, and I completely forgot about her. But like, you know, I just want to see more Gleam Wardens trying to get Alyssa to lighten up, because I know they view her all as like straight-laced and a general no fun and a little bit creepy. Like, we hinted at it in the first 2 episodes of Beacons, but Alyssa and a lot of people from her hometown, actually, which was again, I'm going to put spoilers for this, but it was actually stated in the 2nd episode. Her hometown of Blackwater, a lot of those people have like a general like, something ain't right about them vibe. Like, essentially everyone does. So to see how other Gleam Wardens, try to parse that from her, because as Jessica said, she is a great shot. I must note that Alyssa uses a bow. I did not intend to make 2 archer characters for 2 separate RPG Hour shows. That was not my intent, but it happened anyways. But Alyssa's bow is different than Agnes's bow for sentimental reasons, and that is all I want to say at this point in time. I'm pretty sure episode 3 will actually get a little bit more lore drop about Alyssa, but don't quote me on that. That's mostly, well, technically it's up to me, but also it's up to Crow as well. But also, there are things that I do have planned for episode 3 in terms of character interactions, and it's mainly going to be between Barry, who is our Nigel Thornberry plant person, and Alyssa herself, because those two have a lot of, like, they know each other the most in terms of, like, Alyssa trusts Barry far more than she trusts Danica or Rue. And that's just because Danica she's met in sparing moments, doing work as an undertaker with the glass forgers, because, and this is something that hasn't been spoken about in Beacons yet, but I'm pretty sure Crow's fine with me saying it. The people of the plateau cremate their dead, and they use their ashes to create the glass for the lanterns, for the beacons. And that being said, they do tend to give last rites, and Alyssa was trained as an undertaker to give last rites. And actually, this happened in episode 1. She's a necromancer. I can at least say that. She's a necromancer type character. So she speaks to the dead
So what you're
quite a
saying
lot.
is that she's a necromantic paladin, is what she sounds like.
Essentially, yes, you could classify her as that. Though I would think more so a necromancer ranger, just because of how good of a shot with a bow she is. Like, Crow narrating how many quail she took down during the second episode is not within is like a walk in the park for Alyssa, especially with the bow that she wields.
Well, I say more paladin than ranger only because of the religious aspect.
Ah, no, she is not wholly religious. It's just more so of a it. I'm verging towards my personal spoilers territory, but that is all I will say. Is she's not terribly religious.
So, what is it like to play on a show where the system is, while published, still technically could be in flux at any moment?
I find it very interesting, just because as Crow has said, he during the sessions, like, we tried out that red or black thing. That was a really interesting way of resolving, like, whether or not there would be like a secret door, or whether or not like Sin would be able to find something in his clemency checks, or like whether or not there would be breakfast that day. I just like the idea of it being in flux, because like I really like the idea of, as a player, I could have a hand in potentially like creating a brand new mechanic, or creating a brand new way about going about a mechanic. So like I like it. I really like the freedom of being able to potentially change something, or work out something that was bothering the creator of the system, and find a better solution for it. I like that kind of problem solving.
So, a little bit of backtracking. In regards to your Routes character, Routes
Mm-hmm.
Unknown uses Monster of the Week, which is a powered by the Apocalypse system. Um, had you played any Powered by the Apocalypse or Monster of the Week before that?
Not Monster of the Week, but I did play Monster Hearts before that. A couple of one shots. Or, well, was it actually, it was an extended one shot, so we had 2 sessions of this particular game. But other than that, I really didn't touch Powered by the Apocalypse at all. So, Monster of the Week is still new to me as its own like verse, but I am familiar with the Powered by the Apocalypse like dice style. So, because of playing Monster Hearts.
And what is your feel of Powered by the Apocalypse via Monster Hearts and Monster of the Week?
Monster Hearts is a little bit more like leaning into the whole like back to the high school days of just being dramatic angsty teenagers, but you're either a vampire or a ghoul or whatever, and it satisfies all that trashy YA drama novels that I really like to read in my sci-fi and fantasy. I don't tend to dip into the world of the adult side of those much, but that's just because I am far more used to YA. But I'm slowly getting out there. But it's just versus Monster of the Week, where it's more so like you have this thing for this one particular session or the week, and so you have to problem solve and figure out how to get that done, and it satisfies the craving of like, yes, I want to beat up an enemy, but I don't want it to be like this long drawn out complicated process. For me, Monster of the Week for the Powered by the Apocalypse feels much more like a general anime, like Miraculous Ladybug. Even though that's not an anime, but you know what I mean. It's that general, like, they follow for one episode, there's this one monster, and the next episode you have this other bad guy that all lend into the overall arcing plot, but it's still like, you know, it's mini boss after mini boss, not directly, like, hitting up to swing at the boss.
So, outside of those shows that you do, are there any other streams or podcasts that you're on?
I used to way back in the day, like I'm talking 2018-ish. I used to be on a lot of D&D streamed games, but those have gone to the wayside and I have drifted from those places. I don't know if any of them actually like still exist out in the sphere. I used to be part of a show called Travelers of Ithaca, and I do know we're still up on YouTube. Like all of those, most of those episodes are still up on YouTube. But other than that, I just do my own thing. I draw art on Twitch. I occasionally play games on Twitch, but because of the fact that I am a collegiate student and the fact that I am now splitting my time between a couple of just general chill games with friends that aren't being recorded as a podcast or anything, and now beacons and routes, I don't have time to stream much anymore. But mainly because of college.
So, what is your hope and goal with your art?
I just want to get good, man. That's about it. My apologies. I just want to get good. That's it. Like that's just it. I am very burnt out because of my college and my whole perfectionism about things. And that's kind of why I appreciate not being in any illustration classes right now. I am in a photography class, and I am in a graphic design class. And those don't really require me to be really fancy with drawing. My photography class is demanding in and of itself, but it's fine. It's a studio class, and we're dealing with people. And according to two professors, including the one professor that is running the class, I am very good at people. So I shouldn't be worried, but I am very worried.
You okay?
Yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm sorry. I'm still getting over like the corneal ulcer, and I really tend to overheat really bad, and unfortunately I have my homework station set up right directly next to my fireplace, and since it's so cold up here, because I'm in the upper Midwest, the upper Great Plains, and February is still a hell state. It's just pressure shifts and all that have been wrecking me this week.
All right, I don't want to push you, so if you feel like you need to.
Nah, I'm good. I'm still good for a half hour.
So, what is something that you are. What is a piece of art that you've gotten to do that you've really enjoyed? I know that you have done some commissions.
I have.
It doesn't have to be a commission piece, but what is something that you have really like either latched onto or that like you surprised yourself with how it came out?
See, I'm one of those artists that don't finish a lot of art. I start it, I get to a certain phase, and then I am ever cruxed with the, oh god, how do I render this phase? And then I leave it be and never touch it again. I'm kind of hitting that stage with this one commission I'm working on, and my commissioner is ever patient, ever a sweetheart with understanding that, just because I'm in school, so schoolwork takes first priority. But a piece of art that I guess I've surprised myself with would have to be currently this one side piece that I started working on last stream I did, which is this redraw or drawing that I'm working on turning into potentially a digital painting of this portrait that one of my friends took. Currently, just the fact that I got most of the anatomy working right is a blessing. I'll see how getting everything else finished goes, but other than that, I don't finish my art a lot just because I have this whole it's my I guess it's my expectation versus like my actual art eye of what I can do, and just I'm still working trying to be better about myself about getting something done. Or as Rose said, being too afraid to ruin it just because you sketched it just right.
Yeah, I've got that issue with a T-shirt design from an early on situation with Crow's character from the Star Wars game. Um, Everything else looks great, but I'm crap at hands, and these are gloved hands on top of that. And so the image, I love the direction that it's gone, but it's a shrugging clone trooper with no hands, and I may never get beyond that point because I don't want to accidentally mess up anything else on the image. So I'm right in that loop, because I one of these days I'll get to. I thought I had it right here, but I don't see it, so now I'm scared that I've lost it forever. I think maybe it's in the Discord somewhere, and that may be good because I don't know that I will ever. I don't know that I'll ever get back to it. um, so you're on two shows. You're definitely describing a little bit of like burnout. And are you scared of having to give up any of the shows right now? Are you via your mental health? I mean, I am asking as somebody who is running a game for you. I am worried about you. Like, how are you feeling about your mental health right now?
I will persevere. A lot of this mental health stuff is just mainly schoolwork. Just it's the issue of having as I said before, my photography class is very demanding. We have to within a week and 2 days get get a particular described shot done and all of that. But as I said, when spring break's coming up, it's midterm season on top of that, and I'm going to school in the middle of a pandemic. I am trying to graduate in the middle of a pandemic, and also I am gaining 2 degrees. I am not dual, I'm technically a dual major, but I am getting two whole separate degrees. I am working as a BFA for my graphic design, and my theater degree is a bachelor's of science, and my theater degree is wrapped up in a neat little tiny bow. However, for the school that I go to, a lot of bachelor's of sciences decree that you must have a minor with that degree, but my college has worked a thing with me where if I meet all the requirements for my BFA, I don't have to meet the minor requirement. So it's just final stretch things, and on top of that, for my graduation requirements for my for my graphic design degree, I not only have to prepare a portfolio, but I must also show in a senior exhibition. So along with the other studio art, and a lot of these are mostly the fine art degree graduates. But yeah, so with the studio arts and the other photography majors, I have to put my work up in a gallery space, and that has been a time and a trial and a tribulation. I have mostly everything that I wanted picked out for it. It's just I need to get things I need to get certain things photographed. I need to figure out how to matte and frame one picture on my own, and it's gonna be great. It's just a lot of things left to do and not a time to do it because commencement is May 8th. So I have less than 3 months verging on 2.
It's too bad that you aren't here because Mrs. likes to do frames. Her background, she has a background in art, her college degree. I want to say it was ceramics, maybe sculpture. I'm really bad about this because I know it, like there's stuff that she likes to do, but she didn't major in it, and so like I always get those things confused. And
Oh
so
yeah, like I'm not majoring in photography, but I've taken a lot of photography electives purely because I have sat there and said, well, if I am going to be doing marketing as a graphic design person, I would like to know how to request shots being made so I can put text on them, or vice versa, like what to do with an image and so on and such forth.
so somebody has a little bit of a background in photography. What type of classes are you taking in photography, and are they focused more on digital, film, or mixed?
Lovely question. I will answer that in the way that I have gone through the photography classes in my school. So, I have to take, at the very least, I had to take our beginner class. I also had to take advanced photography. I skipped intermediate because I'm not a photography major, so it wasn't absolutely required for me, and it wasn't a prereq for advanced. But advanced was a prereq for digital, which was one of my electives. So you could see my conundrum there. But I took beginner photography, and that was film, and that was working in the dark room, and I worked off of the more plasticky paper and not the fiber photo paper that you develop off of, which ultimately saved my soul because I don't think I could have stood any more than the least amount of time required of being in that dark room for that. But yeah, so I worked with film, and then from there, a lot of the stuff jumped into digital. Like my advanced photography was more digital photography, digital. But we focused a little bit more on compositry towards the end of that semester, but otherwise digital. I also have studio studio commercial photography. I took the first class, which was us mainly focusing on photographing still lives and objects. And then the later half of that class, we verged into what actually this class that I am taking now goes fully into depth in, which is portraiture photography of like people. So
Do you have plans to do any more photography classes, or is that the extent of what you are
this is the
wanting?
extent. Because the moment as I said before, I graduate in May. I'm out of here. I can't take any more classes after this. I don't think I could. And the funny thing is, I am taking 12 credits right now, and I'm also juggling an internship on top of that because it's a core requirement of my graphic design degree that I must take an internship. It's not negotiable.
Well, to clarify, I don't just mean actively like in college. I mean, do you feel that you might later on seek any more like at a community college or from a studio when they offer courses? Do you think that you want to expand on your photography, or is it more just
Potential.
an understanding?
I will probably expand on it more because I do like it, and as I said before, I am pretty confident in the fact that I can shoot people well. So I could do, like I could do with some more like, especially environmental shots with people, because that's essentially where I'm going to be able to do it the most. Because lights are expensive. Like even cheap lights are still expensive for photography.
If you ever want a cheap light hack, I will do that off Twitch stream. But it's a hack that I have from my construction days that I took into my film class days. Um, that it's one of those things that it's actually a pretty easy thing to do. That it saves you a little bit of money, but just get ready for the heat. Is
Yeah, and since I'm a small person, I will take into consideration whether or not that I will actually be able to do that because I do a lot of my setups on my own. I don't have a classmate to help me. In fact, I was actually shooting in the studio on the cyclorama that my college has that is absolutely beautiful, but is getting ripped to shreds because of the construction that's going on in the library above. That's another conversation for another time. But I was working with another student who was like on the other side of the bay of the psych, and funny enough, a lot of her background color bled into my shots, because of the fact that the white lights work off of slaves, which is just if it sees a flash, it'll trigger the strobe to flash as well. So, like, slave is the actual term. It's a button on one of the battery packs. So it's interesting, to say the least, when you have two sets of, like, two separate, like, stations going at the same time, or relatively the same time.
See, I come from a tech background, so I always called it a raid. Um,
Yeah.
I got yelled at, but I'm like, look, my brain is going straight to computers. That's a raid system. So, um, uh, um, do you? What do you hope to be able to do more of in the future? Photography, drawing, another medium altogether for art. What is something that you want to definitely be able to spend more time on?
I really like my digital art. Not gonna lie, like, traditional is nice, but it's just the ease of being able to share digital art easier is far better, and the fact that I could be far more mobile with it versus like with particular paintings I am stuck within that canvas size, but with a digital art piece I can change the canvas size on a whim. I can crop it, I can, it's just, I like my digital art a little bit better. Also, it is easier to get the finished product to the to my commissioner or commissionee, because of it being just a simple file. And on top of that, something that I would really love to do, actually more so in the theater world, is, as much as I would love to act, I know that I have uh particular hurdles to cross in that, but I really want to do more backstage, like sound, tech, and costuming. Just because like, as a side hobby that I do, I cosplay. So, costuming work for a theater would be really nice as well.
Are you hoping to do some of that there where you're currently at, or are you looking to head out to another place, or do you not have
Um,
any idea on that yet?
I don't have any idea on that. Like, I have had so many people ask me, like, well, what are you going to do after you graduate? And I have stared them dead in the eye and I have said, I want to graduate first. Just because, as I said before, we're still technically in the middle of a pandemic, and I am trying to graduate in the middle of a pandemic. I have survived many a toll, many a trial, and I've come so far now. I do not want to uh, just stop. I know I do need to take a long ass break, but it is not the time for me to rest. Is all.
Just be careful of the allure of studying with energy drinks.
Oh
Um,
no, I can't. I have already tested that theory out, plain as day. If I don't eat anything, I do know for a fact. The only reason why I know this is because I drive 7 hours between my collegiate town and my hometown. So I have already done the tango with energy drinks before, and honestly, coffee and tea are far better for me, anyways, for caffeine. Like, just hit me with a black tea, I'll be fine. I just need to brew more of it. Honestly, I might make myself a cup when I have late dinner tonight.
I will say I discovered this burnout during my first degree. Thankfully, I was a teaching assistant and knew what classes weren't going to be handled, and I had all morning classes, and I was a teaching assistant in the evening classes. I knew one room that didn't have an evening class, and so I locked myself in that and passed out because I crashed so hard from studying for all of those exams. Um, so it's
Yeah.
don't do it, kids. I know that it's tempting, but Um, yeah, and I'll say that it was one of those things where I was young enough at the time that I could do it. I don't think that I would survive it now.
Yeah,
um,
I have, that's me on finals week. Sleep, don't know her. I will stay up till about 4 a.m. on days that I have actual tests just because I am so anxious. So I will usually run off of 2 hours of sleep, take the test, and then just potentially pass out, but I don't nap. That's an also thing because I have migraines that screw with me in not pleasant ways. And as I said before, the pressure shifts of living where I live now.
so barring stress, barring college classes taking up so much of your time, if you didn't have to worry about time, what would be a game that you would want to play?
See, I'm far content with the games I'm in now, actually. I mean, yeah, no, I would love to be in more Aether streams. Give me more of Aether. I absolutely adore this game system. And no, it's not because I may or may not have been a soundboard amongst the many others for Crow, and I have thrown things at him that he has taken that has proven my heart with so much little glee. I'm gonna say it right now. The Omens, Triumphs, and Tragedies track. A lot of that, I just stared at him and I was like, you know what? This reminds me of some of the stuff I remember reading in theater. And then I just theater history dumped on the poor man, the poor burb. And to see some of that like actually worm its way into an RPG is amazing because like a lot of people are like, well, D&D has like a lot of good theatrical moments, and I'm sitting here like, but we could. Essentially, it does, but also it doesn't. It like having actual theatrical elements in a core design of a game just I don't know. It makes something. It makes the improver in me understand it better. Whereas in like you know I am not the greatest at improv. I will say this right now. I do know I need to work better at it. But I do know because of games like Aether, like D&D, like Monster Hearts, and like Routes, I have gotten better. Every single game I play, I always walk away with a new experience and a new way to be able to improv and go off on the fly.
So what you're really saying is that we need to find a way to have an hour where we just grab random people and do RPG Hour Studios presents. Please don't sue us. Whose line is it anyway?
Yes. Highlander is one of the many skits that they do. That is an actual improv game, and that is an interesting one. My favorite one is also the party scene and all that. Like,
Those are all. The fun thing is, those are all actual improv games.
yeah,
Um, but
that Whose Line just made popular via television because Whose Line is improv.
or they tweaked some of them. Some of
At
them
its
were tweaked
core.
for television. I've read some stuff from behind the scenes where they sat it down with some writers and said, "Hey, how can we make this more for TV?" So for those of you out there that like are new to improv and you're like, "This doesn't look like anything I've seen," I'm gonna tell you this. I've been doing theater stuff like on and off for like 20 years, and I've read a lot of improv books, and there's improv in books that I've never seen on stage, and there's stuff that I've seen on stage that I've never seen in a book. There's no such thing as like the one set of way to do improv.
No, because it's improv. You
Yes.
go up with it. You work with it. It is there. It is fuck it. We're doing it live.
So not just whose line is it anyway related, but what is your favorite overall improv game that you've either seen and done, or done?
Highlander. Highlander. It's my favorite one. It's funny. I also really like the situational ones where we pull scenes from a hat. There you go, scenes from a hat. I adore scenes from a hat, especially when you get this uh, really interesting like dynamic to prove, and it's interesting. We've also done this one where where you have four people and each pair of the four create have two separate scenes. So like it's this weird quadrant one, and we'll cycle through scenes, and you have to remember where you picked up and where you left off. uh and it's so funny, but it's even funnier when you start picking up the pace and just randomly switching quadrants at each time. I don't remember the exact name of these. My college calls them something different.
Oh, it's like half of the improv games that I learned back when I was in high school and all of that. Like I've never heard them those same names used, so I don't know. Um, why don't you describe Highlander right quick for those at
Oh
home?
my gosh. Okay, I'm going to forget. I forget it. I know it, but I also forget it. And it's just this, like, I think it's where you grab a certain amount of people and they all, like, improv to be at the top. Like, they're the last one standing for something. I don't know what it is, but that's all I know is you get a group of people for an improv scene, and whoever is the last one up wins. And I could be completely butchering that, and I feel so bad.
I mean, that's how I understand it. I have to say, so technically it's not something that I've ever seen on stage. From what I understand, I do believe that it is something that the show created itself. But show speaking,
Yeah.
hoedown is honestly like I'm not much of a singer, so I wouldn't be able to do it. But I think the hoedown game where everybody
Hold
adds to the
on.
story while
Oh,
singing
or the
is a
Irish drinking
hilarious.
songs.
Yes.
The Irish drinking songs.
Um.
That's also hilarious. Oh, another one that I love that my absolutely like it's a really hilarious and fun game that we actually played in a lot of my theater classes is called Chainsaw. So you get a place, an occupation, and an object in that order. So you have to mime the place, occupation, and object. And the person, like, this is like all done. You get four people, like three extra people, a fourth one stays on stage and they, have to act this out. And it's just a weird game of telephone. And if you understand it, you clap so you can move on to the next scene. But once you get to the object after you clap, the person is supposed to kill you with the object. Like the person who is guessing kills the mimer with the object. And we have got like a favorite occupation that a lot of like people like to pull out is gynecologist. Just for the sheer awkwardness, I know. But it's just hilarious to hear the glee when everyone calls out gynecologist.
So why don't you let everybody know where they can find you when you're not on Beacons and Routes?
Hi, once again, you can find me at Twitter at Rained Keys or on twitch.tv/Rainy Keys. And also on Instagram at rainykeys.art.
And this has been RPG Hour Interviews, which is a part of the RPG Hour Studios network. We have done a lot of links out to a lot of stuff. If you go over to our Discord, please note, due to safety concerns, we do have a React to get into the server now because we want to make sure that you understand the rules of the server before you come in. So you do have to do that to actually get to any of the content. Otherwise, you're staring at pretty much nothing. So that is on there. And if you have anything that you are looking for or that you're interested in regards to us, RPG Hour wise, RPG Hour Studios.card, that's CARRD, that's two R's, .co. and pretty much all of our links, podcasts, and everything like that is available there. And until the dice roll again.
Bye.